Hey everybody, Chef Britt here with atbbq.com, and today we are making Tuscan Smoked Beef Ribs. So today we are going to be smoking on the Yoder Smokers YS640S pellet grill. We're going to be imparting tons of intense Tuscan flavors. We're going to get our Cattleman's Grill seasoning in there. We're going to get some red wine. It's all going to mingle so well with the smoke. But let's talk about the ribs. Now let me show you what we are looking for when we're looking at center cut ribs. These are also known as beef back ribs. Now these are basically ribs that are removed from the rib roast or the rib eye. So if you can imagine some beautiful rib eyes hanging off the side. These are essentially kind of like a garbage cut. They're an extra cut. They should be relatively cheap when you go to find them. And they're not very common, so you're not gonna probably see them too often at your grocery store. So when you're looking to buy these, what you really want is to try and find the ones that are thicker and have more meat on them, and that they hopefully don't have any shiners or sort of bones kind of peeking through. I can see on this one I've just got the tiniest little shiner, but really these are pretty meaty for the cut. What we have going on the back here is a membrane that we need to remove. So let's get that going. All right, so this membrane is pretty thick, and I like to start from the center, and I like to use something dull like a butter knife, or I've even heard of people using like a screwdriver just to get underneath that membrane. It is going to be a little bit tougher than, let's say, the membrane on the back of pork ribs. But if, of course, these are they're really on there today. What might happen, and is going to happen, is I'm going to split it down the middle here. Once you get a good grip on it, it should come up pretty easily. It should be papery and thin, and hopefully you don't pull up too much fat. I almost feel like they pull up easier if your meat is a little more room temperature. These came out of the fridge not too long ago. So we've got these cleaned up. I got a little too far in here, but not too big of a deal. We'll go ahead and get the other rack cleaned up, and then we'll get them seasoned. So today we're going to be using the Cattleman's Grill Tuscan steak seasoning. Now, Tuscan seasoning typically has a lot going on. You can typically find oregano, basil, marjoram, fennel, rosemary, bell pepper, and a few other things. And all of those things are in this seasoning. One thing that we need to take note of is that there's a good amount of salt blended in with this as well. So it's normally used for your ribeye steaks, your KC strips, your New York strips, but if we're going to use it on ribs, we got to be a little more ginger. So let's go ahead and get a binder on there as well. We're going to be using some really nice olive oil from Seika, and a little goes a long way. So we're just using this to help our seasoning adhere to our ribs. Just a little bit. All right, so I'm going to be just a little ginger and not go too intense. All of those herbs and spices are pretty flavorful, so I'm not too worried about them getting lost in the mix of things. But I am just keeping an eye on how much salt I am putting on everything. And I will go ahead and kind of pick up the sides, pick up all that extra seasoning that kind of fell off. All right, so once that seasoning has hydrated and adhered to the ribs, we're ready to smoke. Today I've got the Yoder Smokers YS640S pellet grill, stocked full of our competition blend, which is cherry, pecan, oak, all great flavors for the beef. And we've got it set at 250 degrees. All right, so I'm gonna put these on the top rack, meat side up on a bias here. And I kind of like to put the meatier side closer to the firebox. All right, so we'll let those go for anywhere between 2 to 4 hours. We're just looking for the right amount of color at this point. All right, so we're about 2.5 hours into this cook and it's looking beautiful. I love the way that the fat looks, nice and plump. And we've got that deep, rich mahogany color. So I'm gonna go ahead and get them pulled for the wrap. So we're gonna get that meat side down and I'm gonna pour just under 1/4 cup, maybe even less, maybe closer to 1/8 of a cup of red wine down. Now you can use a Tuscan style wine, but I'm just being resourceful in true Tuscan style and just using some leftover Cabernet Sauvignon that we had in the fridge. I'm also going to add an extra punch of fruitiness with about 1 tablespoon or 2 of balsamic vinegar. I'm just going to carefully bring it up around the corners. Those bones tend to be very sharp and want to punch through. So I'm not really too worried about trying to get the tightest wrap as I'm just trying to get no punctures happening. And we will just double wrap these in foil. Try and keep everything sealed in there. All right, now we're going back on the grill. We're going to do meat side down this time, and we're going to just finish until we get an appropriate temperature or texture that we want. All right, so it's been about 1 hour braising on the smoker. Let's get a temperature gauge in there and probe it a little bit. So ideally, I'm gonna be looking for about 210 degrees. I'm gonna try and feel in between the bones. So that's right at 212. I really don't want to go much past 212 because we don't want to render out too much fat to where these feel dry. So I think we're pretty much there. Let's go ahead and pull them. So ideally you're going to let this rest for about 15, 20, 30 minutes even, just so that all that steam and moisture doesn't escape. Check it out. So what's probably going to happen is you're going to have bones that slip right off and have something that's pretty easy to put your teeth into. Now you could serve this on the bone if you wanted to. You could put it on a sandwich. But what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to shred it up and put it on top of a little pasta today. Beautiful. It smells really incredible. You get all of those herbs from the Tuscan seasoning. You get that fruitiness from the wine. And look at that sauce. You could take that and turn that into a wonderful sauce if you wanted to. I'm going to take a little bite here and make sure it's where it's supposed to be. Man, that beef really holds up to all of this sort of intense flavor that we added. Woo! The salt's at a really great spot. It's not like sweet from the wine and the fattiness. It's really just kind of melding everything together. And the smoke obviously is coming through and just lending that really nice toned flavor throughout. All right, so I think ideally we probably could have gone just a little bit longer on that final cook. But this has still got some great flavor in there. I'm not too worried about taking it much further, but this will be perfect on top of our pasta. So we're gonna keep it pretty al fresco today, and I've just got some blistered cherry tomatoes, some fresh pasta, and a little basil for garnish. Look at that. Summer, summer, summertime. And this is kind of optional, but I'm just going to add just a smidge of this aged balsamic that we have, just to kind of cut through the fattiness of that beef. Get a little pasta, get a little meat, get a little tomato on there, a little touch of basil. Oh man, I know what I'm making for the family this weekend. This. All right, well that wraps it up for me today. If you guys want to check out that Tuscan steak seasoning, I highly suggest you go check out atbbq.com, check out the smokers, check out all of the other flavors we've got. If you want to check out the recipe, click the link down below in the description. Check out atbbq.com/the sauce to see more recipes, tips, and techniques from me and Chef Tom from here at atbbq.com. All things barbecue, where barbecue legends are made.